As has been mentioned previously, the teenage brain is a work in progress. This diagram clearly illustrates how the teen brain matures. Back in the olden days, we were taught that the teenage brain is fully formed when the kid hit 15. And the reason for that was because your skull stops growing at 15. But with the advent of magnetic resonance imaging, suddenly a whole new world opened up. A gentleman called J. Geed discovered that in fact the teenage brain isn't fully developed at 15, but in fact there are significant gender differences. Girls' brains become fully mature, indicated by the increased amount of blue on the scan, round about 23 years of age. Boys, much later, about 28, 29. And what we know from the research done by J. Geed is that this applies to every single young person. There will be, of course, individual differences. All kids have their own personality, their own temperament. So what we have to recognise is that this teenage brain develops from the back to the front. The back part of the brain mediates, if you like, our contact with the environment, sight, smell, touch, etc. But what happens at the front of the brain, in fact directly behind your forehead, is very important for anyone working with young people to know. Ideally, all young people should have a little plastic sticker on their forehead that says closed for reconstruction. And that's because the last part of the brain to develop is this part, the home of the voice of reason, known as the frontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that is responsible for planning, for impulse control, for calming down emotions. And one of the reasons why teenagers are notoriously bad at this is because this part of the brain simply hasn't developed yet. So it behooves the parents, if you like, to be the surrogate voice of reason. We have to basically be in charge of helping young people essentially plan, calm down, and we have to have what I call a developmental perspective. Trying to get a young person to act like an adult is a little bit like asking a dog to study physics. It's never going to happen. And this is why parents have to set limits and boundaries, particularly over activities that could threaten their well-being. Things like alcohol, drugs, illicit substances, driving like a maniac. We have to basically set the limits and boundaries and make sure that there are consequences for the teenage brain if they step over the line.